Hi everyone. My name is Dr. Tأثير فائق. I'd like to introduce you the course that we are teaching for students of the third year. The course is the English novel. Actually, it is the British and American 19th century novel. So I'd like very much to welcome you to the Victorian age, an age which is very remarkable for the prose. There are lots of poets, Victorian poets, but actually the excellence in this age has been with the prose and the novel. We are going to be introduced to a variety of English novels. They are very different, quite different thematically speaking, technically speaking, but we will be focusing on 3 texts. I will mention them later. Now, what is a Victorian age? The Victorian age, or the Victorian era, named after the reign of Queen Victoria, 1837 and 1901. She is a remarkable monarch that ruled England for 63 years. She is the one who caused lots of stability concerning the political dimension, economical dimension. But this age is a new age. It's an age that is called a transition. An age of transition on every aspect of life. It's an age of transition regarding the type of the society. English people, they used to have a feudal system in the society. The age of the Victorian era witnessed a kind of decline for the feudal system. And there is a new class distinctions, the rich, the poor. We are moving from the pre-industrial agricultural society to a fully industrial society, and England becomes a manufacturing nation. London becomes the center of the colonial world, and Manchester becomes the factory of the whole world. It is often named that it is the workshop. London is the workshop of the modern world. We talk about modernity and the word modern because it is a transition to the modernity. We have so many jargon that we are using nowadays, like women's rights, emancipation. Actually, these words were very much established within the Victorian era. Let's go to this kind of transition. So the first transition happens economically speaking. And then with the Industrial Revolution, we have the social life that becomes very different. So it is the labor, and it is the child labor, and it is the women's labor, those that are underpaid, and those people who are the class of people that are working for so many hours in a very terrible conditions. In politics, there are so many legislations, and most of these legislations are, according to the social scientists, very much focused on the franchise, democratization of the franchise. There is an intense aspects of dealing with the women question. There is an increased secularization in politics, separating the church and the state. All these transformations and all this kind of transition can be very much visualized in the following photos that you may see. First of all, we go to Queen Victoria, the one who represents the conservative spirit of the English people. So she is the most loved queen and the most loved and respectable monarch. We have the Industrial Revolution with this factory, and when we talk about the society that becomes an industrial society, we are talking about unions, we are talking about legislations, and so much like a drama within this kind of society. We have also the Victorian Theme, and this is the most iconic photo of the Victorian era. It is that train, and it's a steam train. It is something that changed the face of England. We don't have a carriage with horses that only 3 or 4 people may get on. We have hundreds of people, and they are moving from different parts of England to London or to Manchester or to those towns in which the labor is needed. So it is something also comes very quick and very loud and noisy, exactly like the changes that are happening within this era. Lots of changes, lots of reforms. The other photo, which is also an iconic of the Victorian England, is the Crystal Palace. Now, this instruction is very modern. It is the glass. Glass is the emblem of modernity. This very structure is made out of glass and iron, and it becomes something in the Hyde Park, which is, it becomes like a symbol for the empire, for England as an imperial power. Here, Queen Victoria opens this great exhibition in 1851, and then it started to be like an annual event. Also in Paris, with the Eiffel, with that, there is the World Fair, also in America. All these fairs, starting with this great exhibition, is a place to show the domination of these colonial powers. So here, England, where I bring you in this exhibition from all over the world, token from all over the world, objects to represent the cultures of the other worlds. Something here from India, something here from Cairo, from the Arab world. It's the Oriental that becoming like an object for presentation. So it's also for the scientific advancement. We can show you the scientific advancement. We show you our power and our domination of the whole world through this exhibition, which is really very remarkable. And another photo here, some other aspects of the life: child labor, poverty, and the prostitution. We are talking, when we talk about the women emancipation and the women's rights, actually we talk about the Victorian society that is very conservative. And here we got the fallen woman, the woman who cheats behind her husband. She becomes a prostitute. We talk about the poverty here. And when we talk about these issues, these social issues, we are actually talking about these issues being translated in politics. So it is those Victorian people who are trying to make life better, and they are going to the parliament to make legislations to make the life better. We may say that the literature of this period is a literature of fusion, of pure romance and gross realism. It comes after the revival of the Romantics, because Romanticism is no more satisfying the spirit of the age. So the Victorian age produced the excellence of its prose, but it also produced a new intellectual ideas and a new intellectual movement towards so many stuff that we may consider as modern, like the question of women. Literature of this age tends to be closer to daily life, domestic life. It is the focus on domestic life. I always tell my students, if you want to study the furniture of England, you may go to the Victorian literature. In these Victorian novels, you may study the furniture like tables and chairs, because here the place becomes showing what kind of people they live there. So we can see the English cottage, we can see the palace, the mansion, the aristocrat people, the workers. All this kind of description for the houses and the furniture is there in these novels. So these novels, Victorian novels, they are very much concerned for the socially and economically industrialism, and with regards of the plots that they are dealing with. It's no more something private, and it's no more something like art for art's sake. In this Victorian era, it is the social that comes before before this kind of leisure, private leisure. So it is the social, it's like the moral purpose behind the message of each novel. It is the society that is being exhibited in these novels. These novels about society. These novels about types of different people, different classes. But definitely we are talking about the 19th century novel. It's not the 18th century. So these characters, they have depth, and they are complex characters. They are changeable, and they are fully developed. We talk here about the masterpieces. Most of Victorian novels, they are masterpieces in English literature. Also, we have with the moral purpose, we've got the idealism. They consider, this is an age of doubt. Victorian age is an age of doubt. With Darwin's Origin of Species, we have the people who are wondering what is who created the universe? Is it created by chance? There is people who are being hurt deeply with their religious foundation. So some people are becoming agnostic, others are becoming atheists, and others are still sick to their Christian beliefs, but they are trying to rely on science, on seeing the world differently, a new outlook to life. But when we talk about the idea of science and the idea of evolution, so this is a kind of concern for the literary men of the age. They want the life to be better. They want the world to be better. So the age is characterized by practical, materialistic, it's kind of hectic life, it's kind of moneyed issues in the parliament, whether in life, within the domestic atmosphere. But the writers of the age, they were stick to idealism. They stick to truth, justice, brotherhood, love. These are the themes, and these are the ideas that has been exhibited and shown and throughout the Victorian novel. We are going to study three texts. These are the three texts: Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, and The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Each of them is quite different from the others. And when we talk about the Victorian novel, we talk about diversity. And everyone is very, very unique and different. Actually, it's like a shock when you feel that they all are of one generation. I mean, Emily Bronte was born like 2 years earlier than others. So George Eliot, Charles Dickens, Emily Bronte, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and the other world, they all of the same age, all of them almost the same generation, the generation of the Victorian era. But the contribution to literature is quite different. When we talk about the first novel, we feel that we are very much isolated in Yorkshire with the Bronte's environment. There in Heathcliff's, with Heathcliff's love story and Catherine, we feel it's something very individual and private, but actually it is social. So society is there. When we go with Dickens, we are going to London streets. We start with the marshes and then we end near the Thames in London. But we also talk about society. When we talk about the Scarlet Letter, we'll be going to the New World, to America, and we'll be studying a story about the 17th century witch hunting, about the past. But actually, we are reading, it's a new reading for the contemporary 19th century Hawthorne's life. So what I'm saying, whether you go to history, whether you go to the countryside, whether you go to the heart of London, it doesn't matter. All these novels, they communicate the same values, those Victorian values. So those Victorians tend to idealize the portraits of difficult lives, hard work, love, luck. They all win in the end. Virtue. It may not be rewarded, but apparently at the end wins. We talk like a lesson of the heart. We talk a moral lesson of life. All this formula, all the basis for the Victorian fiction. We can talk about earlier Victorian and later Victorian, and there is a kind of sentiment that a bit different when we move in Dickens' novels. Definitely, we are going to find a kind of pessimism at the end of his life, because with all the reforms happened in the Victorian era, we still have children are working in mines, in terrible condition. Women are still underpaid. But what I'm trying to say, that despite the different environment and different settings and different even technique, like the technique with the narrator, how the story is sold to the reader, but we still have the same values all over these Victorian novels. We have the Victorian protagonist, we have the narrators, and we have the idea of race, gender. It's all over the Victorian world. The first novel we are going to study is Wuthering Heights. And this is actually a masterpiece. And it's the only novel for Emily Bronte, but it becomes a masterpiece, a classic in English literature. Nowadays, the people are still rereading and they are still reviewing, and they offer new readings to these novels. We start the Wuthering Heights is about a love story between a gypsy, a boy that has been adopted by a family, and the girl of that family. Both Catherine and Heathcliff, they represent different people. They represent the people that are very much connected to Wuthering Heights, to the Yorkshire environment, to the cliff, to the stone, to the nature, to the external nature. They reflect the spirit of individuality with the freedom outside the social drama. They represent the idea of being like chaotic. Life can be chaotic, more fun, and they are coming into contrast to the other family, to the Thrushcross Grange, in which we had the Lintons family. They represent the Victorian social standards. The woman should be wear like this and this. The man, a Victorian gentleman, should be wear like this, and behave in that way. They represent the prestigious, sophisticated way of the Victorian standards, social standards. And they reflect, the kind of, what we can say that it's a kind of narrowness in the outlook of life. Anyway, when we have all those people, the wild and the sophisticated and the organized, the chaotic and the absolute order. So we have the kind of a personification for those people to the ideals of the Victorian times. The drama happens with love story, loving someone who is beneath her, marrying someone who is going to take her to another class, the class conflict, the one who has been an outsider is coming back to revenge, to get his, to destroy the life of everybody else. Catherine and Heathcliff's love story has been very much like a print on the Wuthering Heights, on the external nature. We have also the idea that it's the Gothic. You know, the Gothic is a tradition. It survived all the ages. But the Gothic elements and these Gothic tradition within the idea of Victorian era, it becomes something else. Gothic becomes very highly developed within the narrative. The major themes of Wuthering Heights is the love, both brotherly and romantic, but never erotic. It's the revenge, it's the violence, and it is the package of emotion. And this package of emotion is something new for the Victorians, who are very conservative in a character. And that's why actually the novel shocked the readers at that age. It is still shocking us, we 21st century. It brings the hatred, how hatred is so ugly, and it brings it in front of us. You can feel the idea of revenge and hatred, but you can also feel the idea of love that goes beyond the sacredness of marriage. The second novel is Great Expectations for Dickens. And now you have to forget about Yorkshire and the sea and the Westland and whatever, and this barren lands, and you go to London and the hectic life here. It's a different, actually, atmosphere. So much of realism, so much of description, very descriptive passages all over the novel to describe everything. Visual, you can see visual images, you can see the novel, not only reading it. What we have here, a building some topic, it's tracing the Pip, the child, being into an adult, and being actually a snob adult. And his snobbishness, this idea of snobbishness, it is relied on these Victorian values. Dickens, with his Great Expectations, is bringing the imagery of poverty, prison, ships, chains, death, children that are in the streets, living in the streets. Pip himself is a child that has been abused by his own older sister. We are introduced to the world of Dickens, the world of the children who are orphans, who are never been protected by their families or by the society. Children who are working in mines, and children who are like Pip. They are brought into an aristocrat house to play with the adopted daughter like a worker in exchange for certain money. We start the novel with the marshes, and when we have a child being acquainted to a convict, a prisoner, and the convict is very much described like the beast. So we start the novel with the child and the beast, and then we turn that it's the society that is like a beast. And the child has been abused in the marshes, and as a young man has been abused in the court of the law in London. So we are talking about actually not a private story, but the story of every English gentleman at the time of Dickens. From certainly class, from the poor class and the dispossessed workers. Most of the themes of is good and evil, but how evil is presented in society. Social evil, I may say a social evil. We have the awareness of the choices, one's awareness of his own choices. We have the idea of desire, gratitude, what kind of love, child exploitation and corruption. All these problems has been dealt in a social way in Dickens' Great Expectations. The last novel that we are studying is The Scarlet Letter. With the Scarlet Letter, we will be moving to the New World, to America. With the Scarlet Letter, we will be talking about the 19th century by telling a story about the 17th century. What makes America is the city upon the hill, is the Puritans who went there in order to look for freedom. And they themselves turned to be the oppressors. They themselves turned to be those who persecute others. So by the story of Salem and the witch hunting, we have the story of Hester Prynne, the one who was supposed to be an adulteress, the one who was was punished to wear an A, a broderie A, that everybody knows that she is the adulteress. But this person ends to be the one who is breaking the boundaries of the Puritan society, the one who is moving to be the first feminist rebel, the one who is bringing life in the forest. So the forest that's supposed to be the place for the black man becomes the place for the civilization with the idea of individuality and freedom. While the city upon the hill with the Puritan town, which is supposed to be the one that is organized and civilized, becomes for those ministers who are chasing people and they are trying to persecute people. So the story of the Scarlet Letter, the adultery A, it becomes able, and it becomes across the ocean for the colonial experience. And it becomes art, because she is going to embroider A in a very beautiful way. And in the end of the novel, with the Victorian era in this Scarlet Letter, we have a new understanding of the life and of the gender and the issues of whatever we say about the sin, guilt, all these concerns for the Victorians, a kind of rebellion. Most of the themes are themes of the rebellion. With the Scarlet Letter, we end our course, and we put our readers into the modern age, having actually studying some other novels, not as a text, but by mentioning them and by a comparative approach when we study the novel regarding technicality and regarding the thematic dimension. Thank you very much. Hope to see you next time.